Well, I'm just about to set off from Geneva, so I'm going to head for the French border, hopefully camp there the night, and then start the epic journey to Verdun. As you can see, it's a beautiful day here, lovely scenery too. Look at those mountains. I'm away from the lake now and I'm walking towards France. I'm going to go into Colex and then Bossy. It's a lovely warm day. I might even have to take off my top. It's beautiful out here. Just crossing the border into France along the cycle route there at 3 o'clock at local time. There's perhaps not too much to get excited about, but you'll note there is quite a big mountain range there in the distance that'll probably keep me occupied for the next few days. There's still plenty of sunlight left, so I think probably I'll kick on for another 3 or 4 hours and then find somewhere to rest for the night. Well, it's a new day today as the road continues to wind itself through the French mountains. It's a fine day at that. I think I'm going to have to head for Ypres. Anything after that today will be a bonus. This reminds me very much of New Zealand, very mountainous, the long winding route. Well, the mountains are still formidable, so I think it's time for me to go and have a coffee. Interesting as we cross the border once more, Switzerland back into France. Well, the mountains just blow you away up here. Get a load of that. Nice descent with a cool breeze on a new day and a new places which lie ahead. Hoping to reach Champagnon today. As you'll see now, much lower ground than yesterday, but still plenty of sunshine. Still extremely mountainous. The whole scenery dominated by forest and gorge. Still on the high ground. Going to take the next descent towards Champagnon. Well, that's me done for the day, and quite a challenging day too. In fact, the last 3 days have been very exacting considering the amount of mountainous terrain I've had to cross. Sometimes the mind needs to be stronger than the body, especially as the road always presents a severe challenge. Today was no less a challenge than normal. But it was quite formidable looking down onto the treetops as I ascended into the mountains, knowing that there was sometimes as much as 1,000-foot sheer drop from the road, and as the road narrowed it became somewhat disorientated. But I'm here today and I've camped just here for the night. I'll head off tomorrow and see what new adventures lay in store. We have less dramatic landscape now as the journey settles down en route to Saint-Labain. Just walking through Salins. It's about 2:30 in the afternoon. Another viaduct in the background, and the sound of running water is but an opiate on a hot day such as this. Well, it's a much cooler start to the day, and the week for that matter. I'm just heading into London now. Quite a busy little bit of main road here, and in the distance you can just see Besançon. That's where I'm heading, hopefully for lunchtime today, which will complete a 4-day epic to that landmark. And from there we'll hopefully head on to Verdun. And here we find more hidden beauty along the way. And yet more inspiring scenery. Well, I'm just walking through the town of Ypres after a horrendous journey on the top there. Reminded me a little bit of the Cromwell Gorge in New Zealand. Bit too narrow for my liking. Winding and at times a bit steep as well, but nonetheless beautiful. A bit of motorway madness here, as you can see. Certainly not the best route in the world to walk on. At last, peace and tranquility with barely a car in sight. Yesterday was one of the toughest days yet and probably the most dangerous. Fortunately, I was able to camp down last night at Rio's, and the police are very helpful this morning. They were able to direct me to the cycle route, which will get me back on course again. I was slightly off course yesterday and had to walk up a very dangerous motorway. Just arrived at the historic village of Fondemont on the D33. Look at that for a building. Fantastic. A little bit more footage of this place before we move on. It's quite historic. Very quaint. I like these sorts of places. Feel at peace here. More interesting buildings lie ahead. Entering Villefranche along the D3. Very picturesque. Another town and another change of route coming up shortly. We have a new day ahead. A little bit misty today. Heavy dewfall there. You can barely see the road. But I'm heading that way shortly. Just arrived at the town of Juzzy. We sort of finished phase 1 yesterday, so I'm now heading out towards Verdun. I think probably managed to get there for Sunday. Just a little war memorial here for those that fell in the big battles of Verdun, the Marne and the Somme. Setting off along the D3, another fantastic little village lies ahead. Well, the mist has totally cleared now. It's a really hot day, August style, as I walk in through Bloemfontein, next village along the D3. Interesting shape of church there. Pleasant scenic descent now towards Fresnay. Well, I've now got an evening descent into Montflet-Marche, just at the point of dusk. Well, I'm still 7k from the finish line today with dusk approaching. Some young lads helped me get some water, and now I'm on my way for the last part of the day. Well, we're 6k into a new day already. It's a foggy one at that. I could actually hear the mist falling onto the tent previous evening. You can just see some of the landscape poking through now. I must say, it does look beautiful. It's quite hot now. You just wouldn't believe the transition from this morning. All that mist has gone. Just plenty of sunshine. You'd think it was literally Midsummer's Day, and just look around. It's fantastic. Well, I've got to highlight this because it's the first bakers I've seen in about 2 days, and it's closed. Surprise there. It seems to me that in these rural parts of France, people are very self-sufficient. I notice there's plenty of allotments and orchards about. They probably grow a lot of their own produce. apart from the lorries, one could almost imagine stepping back in time here at a different age altogether. Certainly a far cry from Geneva, or even Great Britain for that matter. I'm on the approach to Neuve Chateau, which is possibly about the biggest town I've seen since leaving Besançon. Believe me, there's not been much in between. There's barely been a restaurant. Most of those that I've seen are a bit run down or closed. I haven't yet seen a hotel that's open, and I'm hoping now that I can actually get a proper night in a bed for the first time this week. These days are very misty and full of dew out here in France at the moment. But usually from it is born a very hot sunny day. Just on the way into Domremy at the moment, which is on the way to Verdun. Verdun would be about 100k from here as it stands. We have an amazing descent to a village totally flanked by forest. I just reached Vaucouleurs now, where there's actually, well, there used to be an old military hospital during the Great War around about 1916 when they were fighting the battle at Verdun. Just go a little bit further on, also a cenotaph there, or the Battle of Verdun. Verdun's now about 60 some odd k away. I'm hoping that should get there early Sunday morning with a bit of luck. Interesting bit of paintwork there. What a nice little town actually. Well, as you can see, it's a misty start to the day as we're just about to enter the village, well, the town I should say, of Void. Well, with the mist finally clearing, I've managed to reach Commercy, which is about, I'm guessing, 40k from Verdun. I'm hoping to press on to St. Michel, but as you can see, Commercy lives up to its name. It's very commercial here. This is a Saturday market. It's quite a beautiful place. Very nice buildings all around. Lovely little clock tower there. And there's the centre ville. Not a bad morning's work. About 20k so far, and it's only 11 o'clock. Well, at Commercy we had the first poignant glimpses of the effects of the First World War. Soldiers lie here after the Battle of Le Marne and de Meuse. Big campaigns fought around the Verdun region. Thousands are buried here. We'll see many more of these places as we head into Verdun today and tomorrow. All dying in the name of France on the fields of the First World War. Another great scene of sunshine. Beautiful day again. This commemorates the fierce fighting of the Roman camp fort at St. Michel, which the Germans managed to take. It was under siege throughout the First World War, till eventually General Pershing freed the salient of St. Michel in 1918, which was really the Franco-American offensive. But there was a lot of brave people died here trying to save the little place. There was only actually one unit of men actually able to stay here because the rest were under siege in Verdun and other parts of France. It tells you quite a lot about the war front here. I haven't got time to read it all, but this is just a little landmark just at the foot of St. Mihiel, which I'm about to walk into now. And there we have a war cemetery paying tribute to the altruistic deeds of the men at St. Mihiel. Little bit of wet weather today, makes a change from the mist. It's comfortable for walking. I'm making steady progress towards Verdun, hoping to be there sometime the middle of the afternoon. Here we have a monument of some of the early battles in September 1914. Here we have the defence of Troyan Fort. There's a memorial there. So here we have the little village of Troyan, defended by the French in the early days of the war, September 1914. Just having a glimpse of the church there ahead. Another war cemetery ahead. Here lie the men who fought for Dieu sur la Meuse, River Meuse. Dieu is the name of the village I've just walked through. So on we go to Verdun, the last dozen or so miles. Well, I'm standing outside the Hotel de Ville in Verdun. So this is the heart of the town. I'm going to move on through the rest of the town now and see what we can find and what remnants there are of the Great War. Just approaching the citadel to Verdun. Quite a lot of activity on the river today. A bit further down there's a bit of a canoe regatta. Let's see what's beyond here. Quite a compact little place, plenty of hotels, and I now have my route to Mons already plotted, so I'm going to head off and start the epic journey into Belgium. Well, a few kilometres away from Verdun, on my route to Mons, there's a cemetery for the war dead who fought along the Meuse. It's as a poignant sight as one would ever see. The ultimate sacrifice in a war where altruistic deeds were a daily occurrence. Many could never understand or even imagine the great loss of life. But come in here, the visual evidence is quite conclusive. After a wet night camping, I'm now striding out along the D964. This is the only pedestrian route I could find to Mons, and I did have it confirmed at the tourist office. At the moment it's quite busy because we're having to deal with the early morning traffic, commuters, etc. I'm looking hopefully to find a village where I can have a coffee, give myself a bit of a kickstart, and then maybe I can find a village fountain where I can at least have a wash and shave. Now, as the morning progresses, I've stumbled across a German cemetery. You can see here people that fought in this region, they all had casualties, and this is what the actual German cemetery looks like. It's a bit different to the white crosses we've seen in the past. Reasonably well kept, and again an awful lot of people who had died in this area fighting in one of the great battles. I expect many people come here from Germany to try and find lost relatives, but interestingly this is the first German war cemetery I've come across. There are a few more down there, Ypres, Passchendaele, Bedford House. I think there's a few German war dead, but this is the first one I've seen thus far in this journey. There we have the River Meuse cutting through the beautiful countryside. A lot of arable land there and forestation. Would have been barely recognisable 100 years ago as battles raged on, as the French fought valiantly to defend Verdun. Today it is peaceful and serene. Just come across a little canal bridge here. We've got the canal beside the road at the moment. Lovely little spot there if you like fishing. Not a bad little spot there either to pitch a tent if required. Just headed into the next village to see if I can get a coffee. The rain now. There's a lovely little water scene again as the river breaks off into another tributary along the Meuse there. Another village. Time to get shelter, I think. Walking into Steny. That completes over 40k for me so far today. Gonna have a quick look around here and press on for a couple more hours, I think. Right, this is me just leaving the Meuse region. I can tell you what, it was a wet night last night. Everything of mine was soaked, paperwork, everything. I had to bail 6 inches of water out of the tent. Basically I haven't had any sleep. I'm certainly a bit cleaner than I was a few days ago. I'm now just going to hope it stays dry for today, that I can dry some of this kit out. And there ahead lies the historic town of Moson. Just looking back up the hill, you can see the little archway there. There's about 2,000 years of history in this place, and certainly the buildings give it that sort of stature. From here I'm hoping to walk on to Sedan. I'm going to find a route there today hopefully, and then I'll be on my way into Belgium. One last glimpse of this lovely historic town, and it's time to head off for Sedan. Pass through another great town en route to Sedan. God, another grim old day today as we head out towards Charleville-Mézières. You'll see all around it's wet, it's pouring with rain, it's done nothing but really for the last 3 days. But here we go, just entering Flies now. On a sunny day I guess it might be quite spectacular, but today it's just as grim and dismal as any other place I've wandered through. Just passing the scene of a fire there, not a good sign at all. And as we press on a little bit further, we're now entering Charleville-Mézières. Very Gothic city, Charleville-Mézières. Some wonderful architecture across the river. Probably do myself a favour by trying to find the tourist office here, get some directions into Belgium. So there we have it, a Hotel de Ville. What a remarkable building. Well, the architecture here just blows you away. Look at that. Even in the pouring rain, it is captivating and significantly uplifting. Oh well, it's always hard going when you don't know where you're going. But I've had to come off the main road because it's there's a motorway ahead. So I've taken a little byway here that should, I say should, lead me on to the next town. And the next town from here is Rennes, and it's quite a big town, so maybe I should look for somewhere to stay or camp when I get there. Still no signposts, but very quiet and harmonious. Pleasant change from the motorway and the city traffic. We're at the village of Holdersee. There's a little cenotaph there to commemorate those that fell in the Great War from this little village. And there we have a passing glimpse of an old fortification at Ypres. I'm now about 2-3 miles away from the next town, so hopefully I'll get somewhere to stay there. Voila, the town of Rennes. Well, we seem to run into cattle everywhere, even in the sports cafe. Morning, cattle. Walking into Ypres now. What a sumptuous looking little place. Just gotta find a tourist office, get some information on the border. I think my first big town in Belgium is Geneva, which is about 26k away. Just entering the town of Geneva. At least it stopped raining. That's the one blessing. It's at this village we bid farewell to France, as I now cross into Belgium. A long-awaited transformation. It's actually 2 weeks ago when I was crossing from Switzerland into France, so 2 weeks exactly. And there's the Café de la Frontière. Just ahead we can see the Belgian marker, the blue marker. Onward we go to Mons. Roughly 12k from Chimay, less than 70k to Mons. You'll note there's actually quite a lot of forestation around here, and it's extremely rural too. Well, it's market day at Chimay, and I'm now off towards Mons. That's the next phase in my journey. I was very fortunate to be able to stay with some people I met last night. Because I lost my tent the other day, obviously I had nowhere to stay and I was hoping to find a hotel. So I'm quite pleased that this has worked out for me, and I'm heading off now in the direction of Beaumont. Just walking into Beaufort. Good chunk of the work done today. That's a nice little session. All I see now are signposts for Mons. And that's all the inspiration I need to get this job done. Well, this is just ridiculous. The road's just become a river. I just can't understand this. It's going to be very difficult to finish this walk now. Well, I guess I've seen better days than this. Don't seem to be doing very well today. I'll be lucky to get to Tournai. But I'm going to keep soldiering on. That's all I can do. Well, on a water dominated day, I guess this must be the highlights of it. Don't get to see too many barges like that at home on the Nene. Well, the weather really is severe around here, and I was worried about losing a tent. It's nice to see the sun come out, even though it's late on in the day, as I walk through the town of Bassicles. I think I'm in for a good bit of overtime as well tonight. Going to be another dark one, I think. Well, slept under another tree last night. At least I was warm enough. But I do find that Belgium has a distinct lack of hotel accommodation. The last 2 or 3 days have been extremely hard, considering I've actually walked over 120k in the last 2 days, so that puts it in perspective. Not quite what I want to complete this job. Well, Tournai is quite a substantial little town. I think I'm going to make my way to the centre and have a look around. It's fairly quiet because it's a Sunday, so I should have no problem trying to get myself onto the next part of the journey. Yeah, the old cathedral looks quite spectacular, though it's undergoing a bit of medical treatment at the moment. A lot of newer buildings here, because I suppose many would have been crushed in the First World War. It's quite a nice walk through the town. Should be hitting the main road again soon. We have another border crossing into Ypres in France. It sort of cuts a little bit off my journey to Ypres. Had I gone through Courtrai, it would have been significant from the point of view that Courtrai would have been the end of my round trip of Europe. But the main significance, of course, of this journey is to walk through Flanders, where people fought for peace over 100 years ago. And again we cross the border. There's Belgium, and Menin lies ahead, which actually completes my circuit of British Isles and Europe, so I think that's worth a coffee. Well, I think there's certainly a Dutch element here. What an amazing building this is. Like the rest of Europe, Menin also has its very unique architecture. Well, I've arrived at the first cenotaph at Ypres, where the 18th Division fell. I think a little further on from here there's a museum and some trenches next to a war cemetery, so we're going to go and have a look at that and see what we can find out. Across the road lies a cemetery from the first Battle of Ypres. Here is a museum with relics from that battle. You can see here. The contestants of this battle were the BEF, who had come reeling back from Mons after a heavy slaughter from the German artillery. They were probably the finest troops in the world, and their skill and the bravery of the cavalry that fought counter-attacks with the Germans probably preserved the BEF as a fighting force in the field. But by the time they dug in here at Ypres, hand-picked guards from the Prussian guards came on heavily, pledged victory or death. Almost ceremonially they came on, dying in ranks, as the BEF fought hard to preserve the town of Ypres. Often the woods had to be cleared and there was fierce hand-to-hand fighting. But by dusk, the remnants of the BEF were victorious. while before them lay the guard, dead in knots, piles and swathes. Rather than this be the end of the war, as many believed it would be in 1914, it simply was a beginning of a new era of war, trench warfare. And as you can see, the results were not good. Arriving at Hill 62. That's about 4k beyond Ypres, next to Wood Cemetery, where the Canadians lie. And here we have the cenotaph at Hill 62, where the Canadian Corps fought in defence of Ypres, April to August 1916. And as you can see, Ypres is not far away. Back on the Ypres salient for the last bit of the journey to the Menin Gate. All war dead are honoured here. Those that fell between 1915 and 18. Here the lion sits proud on top of the Menin Gate, the most sacred place on earth to a military man from the British Empire. Although the dead are in name only, their souls live on in the heart of this little town, who commemorate their great sacrifice each night at the last post.